Hey y'all, it's your favorite country girl, Renee Davis, back with another episode of Love Kills, honey, where we pull back the sheets on crimes that prove love ain't always sweet. Sometimes it's deadly. Love Kills by Melanin Mayhem brings you the stories of relationships and situationships that went hella wrong. That shit resulted in somebody's water getting permanently turned off, if you know what I'm saying. I'm gonna give you the who, the what, the where, and why I think that shit is crazy. We gonna get in and we gonna get out, just like a robbery. I got a story. You wanna hear it? Well, here you go. Today, baby, I got a special case of victimization, honey. We heading down to New Orleans, the land of gumbo and beignets. Ooh, honey, second lives and some dope ass cemeteries. Y'all, I love cemeteries. Not the point. There's also my nemesis down there, honey, them motherfucking saints. Yeah, y'all know I rep Atlanta hard. We gonna meet a young woman who blew up her whole spot, y'all, for a boy. One of them down street niggas. A purveyor of the narcotics, if you know what I'm saying. And she was so gone over this young ass nigga that she threw away her career, her pension, her life. Literally, y'all. And she did it after only knowing this little boy for 4 months. So y'all go ahead and get comfortable while I bring you the story of a slick little bitch named Antoinette Frank. The crooked cop that fell so deep into foolishness that love made her kill 3 people, all for a little piece of change. Some mess, honey. Antoinette Frank was a 70s baby. Her mama was Mary Ann and her daddy was Adam. And along with 3 other children, there was the Franks. You know how everything is good till it ain't? That's kind of what we got here. While the growing up and the living and the loving was happening in real time, outside looking in, they seemed like a regular family in the 70s and 80s, right? But that Adam, though, Daddy Frank, they say he was a motherfucker, though, and a daughter fucker, if you believe that. That's what Antoinette say. Now, after the shit hit the fan, the story of what had happened was that she had a fucked up childhood. Her daddy was abusive. You know, he was a vet and he had undiagnosed PTSD and he terrorized his wife and 4 children. And if you believe the word on the curb, Pop was a whole ass menace. Like, he was terroristic type of menacing. I mean, he'd do shit like unhook the stove from the gas line and lit the hospital up with gas. What? Or he'll put the family in the car and drive to the railroad track. Somebody he gonna let the train hit them. That's a special kind of crazy right there. And Mama Frank, she stayed for a while, but eventually her ass got tired of being a punching bag and she and 3 of her kids left. She had 4. She left Antoinette at the house with Papa's crazy ass. Now, at this point, I'm looking at Mama's side eye, cause Antoinette say her daddy started raping her as soon as she hit puberty. What is that, like 11 or 12? So, I mean, y'all ain't living in no mansion or nothing. You either saw or heard what the fuck your husband was doing to your daughter, and you ain't cooked that nigga a pot of grits? Okay. After she and the children left Antoinette along with Daddy, the next thing you know, Antoinette come up pregnant 3 motherfucking times. 3 motherfucking abortions. They say that first one was at 16 and the last one was in 1991 when Antoinette was 20. I ain't no expert, but as a child, Antoinette couldn't get away. That much, absolutely, I'm 100 on that. After that first abortion, though, at 16, okay, she's still a minor, though. She's still under her daddy's care. But what I don't understand is why in the fuck was she still in the house with that predator after she turned of age? I mean, why she didn't cook her daddy a pot of grits? Something about this don't smell right, but I digress because I do believe there did come a time when Antoinette handled that little situation, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So anyway, while her home life is dysfunctional, Antoinette outwardly, she alright. She go to school, she participates in school shit, she has social life, she graduates. And while in school, she even joined the Opalapa's Junior Police Cadets and then also the New Orleans Police Explorers. So, okay, Antoinette want to be law and order real bad, right? She has, few post-high school jobs, the little shit you get. She worked at Walmart or whatever. But after being a volunteer police, Antoinette decided she wanted to be real deal police, honey. So she applied to the New Orleans Police Department when she was 21. Now, you might think that since she had a little experience as a play cop, you know what I'm saying? Probably got some good references. Getting into the real deal thing shouldn't be an issue. It was. Antoinette first fucked up on the goddamn application. You know how it asks you to list your previous jobs and they want to know the reason you not with the job no more? Well, Antoinette lied and said that she quit Walmart. Come to find out she was fired. Sugar. That was an unnecessary ass lie that didn't nobody ask you for. It was Walmart. Girl, put the truth. But they found out when they did the background check that she had lied. So that was strike one. But I'm saying that ain't something that the New Orleans Police Department couldn't look past, right? Everybody lied about the reason they left their previous job. But then there was the psych exam. Ooh, honey, baby. Antoinette failed the psychological exam not once, but twice. Ooh, they gave you a makeup and you still couldn't get it right, girl. The New Orleans Police Department was like, ma'am, something ain't right in your head. We desperate a little bit, for sure. But we ain't that desperate. Thank you, but no thank you. But y'all, it had to be bad, like mucho no bueno. The experts who did the test on Antoinette, they said that she was emotionally unstable, withdrawn, and totally unfit for police work. The psych evaluator, the person who did the test, he or she actually wrote, candidate exhibits inability to perform under stress, poor judgment, and questionable ability to engage with the public. Excuse me, that is all police work is. You got to be able to engage with the public. You got to be able to perform under stress, and you got to have good judgment. Excuse me, no, Antoinette. They say Antoinette took the news badly. There was a suicide attempt and her daddy swooped in and showed them a suicide note that she had left and he filed a missing persons report because he didn't know what she was. Honey, she was gone for like a day. And then she popped back on the scene and, tried to move on with life. But then 3 weeks later, Antoinette got some good news, honey. Apparently, New Orleans was actually that desperate for somebody, anybody, to put that goddamn uniform on. Now, y'all might remember that back in the 90s, New Orleans was the murder capital of the world, honey. Shit was going down, and their police department was corrupt as a motherfucker. I mean, there was so many New Orleans police officers that got prosecuted for all kinds of criminality, drugs and robbing motherfuckers, killing folks. I mean, it was going down. Many cops got prosecuted and sent up the river. So New Orleans had a deficit of officers, and they also had this little rule that you had to live in New Orleans proper in order to be a New Orleans police officer. So the pickings was slim. You know what I'm saying? They needed warm bodies, and Antoinette was breathing and she could hold a gun. And so they was like, you know what, girl? On second thought, even though you supposedly just tried to kill yourself, we don't care. Your psycho ass is hired, girl. Come on in. They also needed more minorities in uniform. So with Antoinette, they got a 2-for-1. She was black and she was a woman. All I know is you get what you pay for. Child, her ass shouldn't have been able to get a job with Top Flight, much less the New Orleans Police Department. If a bitch ain't right in the head, what you gonna get their ass a gun and a badge for and let them loose on the citizens? So Antoinette is hired in 1993. And for the school portion, the police academy, she was a beast. She graduated top of her class. So, okay, maybe we was wrong, Antoinette. Maybe you will be good police. Nah. Once Antoinette got out there on the street, according to her file, ooh, honey, she was a whole ass mess. Honey, Antoinette is on the force, but protecting and serving was not on her to-do list. Word on the street is that she was very negacious in the way she did her job. You know what I'm saying? They say old girl was lazy. She always showed up late. She was hanging out with sketchy motherfuckers. And overall, she really didn't give two shits about the job. Say Antoinette was acting like she was still working at Walmart. She pop out and ring up somebody and then disappear into the break room somewhere. Everybody ain't meant to be a cop. And I know I ain't. Clearly Antoinette ain't neither. She ain't one of the bleeding blue types either. But nevertheless, she is Officer Frank. Now, while Officer Frank is doing her special brand of policing, she meets a drug dealer named Rogers LaCaze. First name Rogers. Last name LaCaze. Now, y'all, this wasn't no Nino Brown, no smooth talking head nigga in charge type of nigga. You know what I'm saying? Oh, no. This was a young ass, wet behind the ear teenage street hustler. And yes, I said teenage. This nigga couldn't even order a drink legally at the bar. She met this young thug on November 25th, 1994, just a little bit after his 18th birthday. Well, damn, Nate. You know when she met the nigga? I actually do because you see, old girl was a cop, and in the course of doing her cop shit, she ran across young Rogers who had got caught up in some street shit. You see, what had happened was a nigga named Freaky D, he pulled out that piece be still and put some hot lead in Rogers' ass. Well, guess who was one of the officers on the scene of the shooting? Officer Frank. She questions Rogers, and the story at the time was that she felt like he needed a mentor, you know, somebody to look up to. So she took him under her wing. She took him under something, all right. Well, I don't know. Rogers either spit some real deal game to Antoinette because instead of just writing up the report and moving on, she became real friendly with Rogers. Now, at the time, Antoinette is 23, and like I said, Rogers had just turned 18. So while it's only a 5-year age difference, still, yeah, both of their asses are young and clearly dumb, but Antoinette is not only older, bitch, you 50. Your job is to arrest the criminals, not date they asses. Girl, but you know, I understand shit happen. You can't help who make you moist, honey. I know, y'all, I know. But there is a way to do anything. Some shit you got to do on the low, right? You know what I'm saying? Old folks say everybody business ain't nobody business. So if you want to smash this little tenderoni, then you do so quietly. Antoinette? But oh no, honey. Not Officer Frank, honey. She was outside with this youngster on the regular. And I ain't talking about like outside at the bar, you know, because this is New Orleans and the bar is everywhere. And you know, if you at the bar, you can say that you just so happen to be at this public place at the same time as this other person. You know what I'm saying? Perfectly plausible. But not your girl Antoinette, honey. She taking this young nigga shopping and shit. What Beyonce said, she buying a nigga a short set and taking him to Red Lobster because he was laying good pipe. Sugar, he the drug dealer. He should be taking you shopping, not the other way around. And you ain't old enough to be acting all cougarish and shit, girl. But it didn't stop there, honey. Oh no, honey. Antoinette was buying Rogers cell phones and renting cars and shit for him. Speaking of cars, Rogers must have been piping her ass down so good that this big Antoinette had this nigga riding all up in her squad car in the front seat. Ma'am, I ain't a cop. I ain't never been one. I ain't got no aspirations. But I do know the only people that ride in the front are the motherfucking officers of the law. Everybody else ride in the back. But you got your little young drug dealing ass cutty buddy riding shotgun all around the city, and people see y'all. She is pulling up on calls with this nigga talking about he a trainee. What, ma'am? Come on now. New Nation, imagine this. You just called 911. You need help and shit. And the officer that show up got a thug ass, young ass nigga with him. No uniform, no badge. Clearly looking like a street pharmacist with the jewelry and the sagging pants. Antoinette. Girl, I can't, honey. But you know what? To Antoinette, she ain't give two shits about who saw what, honey. Rogers must have had that motherfucking pound town going down the horde. Honey. And instead of Antoinette recognizing the seriousness of the situation and the optics of her being a cop and her position of power in the situation, she just threw caution to the wind and just let it all hang out. Honey, there wasn't nothing she wouldn't do for her man. And as for Rogers, I mean, think about it. This little nigga came up. He's a entry-level drug dealer. You know what I'm saying? He want to step his game up. What better way to step up than to have a relationship with the law? And not only just a relationship, but you got the law in your bed, literally. And in true negacious form, Rogers used all these new resources to come all the way up and make his street life better. Ooh, honey, I can see it now. Rogers done blow Antoinette's back out. They laid up pillow talking. He gonna tell her, baby, that nigga rolled up on me. I'm gonna have to do that nigga. He gonna have to find out. And in my mind, he just planting seeds. And them motherfuckers sprouted up tall and strong. And the next thing you know, Antoinette using her job to run background checks on all his ops. What you say that nigga name was? And how about this? Rogers said his heifer that he got to go make a run somewhere right quick, make a play. Why Antoinette let him use her squad car? Her squad car? Church. Come on now. You can't be doing that. Imagine the dope man pulling up to the goddamn spot in a bona fide police car to serve a bitch. Ooh, honey, that's clout like a motherfucker, honey. Ooh, that's stunning on their ass. Baby, that's sending a real message to everybody. And the message is, I'm the motherfucking man because I got the motherfucking man in my motherfucking bed. Don't play with me. I know niggas get the baby boy treatment with that girl car, but the squad car, Antoinette, girl, that dick must be platinum coated and diamond encrusted, cause woo, child, honey. And it didn't stop there, y'all. Antoinette was plugging him in on all the information on when and where the police was gonna be doing a bust. So Rogers could either tip off his homie and they need to lay low, or he could just stand back and watch his competitors in the game get washed off the board by his girlfriend and the boys in blue. Ooh, woo. And of course, Rogers could do and say anything he wanted on the block because his girl was police. Antoinette was the problem solver. Let me tell you about this time. In February 1995, Rogers had got into it with some niggas at a party. Well, the niggas left. You know, they fussing and cussing and carrying on what they gonna do to each other, yada, yada, yada. The niggas get in the car and they drive off. They get a little ways down the street, blue lights on their ass. They get pulled over. It's Antoinette. She take them niggas out the car, and then Rogers jump out the car and then start jumping on the dudes. Well, it's two of them and one Rogers, right? Nope. Antoinette out there swinging too. What in the whole hell? A fellow lawman just happened to be riding by, right? He see the cop car and he see the fight. So, of course, he gets out to help. He grabbed Rogers' ass, and the next thing you know, Antoinette was like, no, he's with me. They're the bad guys. Arrest them. And they arrested the other two dudes. Man, them niggas went to jail and got fines and everything behind that shit. When I tell you, Antoinette wasn't no joke by her man. Or her child, her man child. Whatever you want to call it. She ain't play about that motherfucking Rogers, honey. Don't fuck with my old man. They say love will make you do crazy shit. But honey, Antoinette took that shit to a whole nother level, honey. Now, mind you, all this shit happened real quick. I mean, they met around Thanksgiving 1994 when Rogers got shot, and by the end of February 1995, what is that, 90 days, give or take? These motherfuckers is planning a heist. I'm talking about some real Bonnie and Clyde types of vibes out here. In this case, Bonnie got a gun and a badge and thinks she is above the law. Could possibly go wrong. Let's see. You see, Antoinette got a little side hustle. She worked as security for this Vietnamese restaurant called Kim An, and ain't nothing unusual about that. Y'all know police officers do security work on the side all the time to make a little piece of change. And the New Orleans Police Department pay was low as fuck. So even though Antoinette got a drug dealer for a boyfriend, she needed some bread to keep tricking off with this young man. So she got this job at Kim An. And y'all know, at an Asian restaurant, it's usually family run, and Kim An was no different. It was the parents who owned it, the children worked on, right? They liked Antoinette, and they didn't do her dirty. She was part of their motherfucking crew. And there was another police officer that worked there too, Officer Ronnie Williams. Now, wait a minute. I don't understand. Times must have been dangerous as fuck if the Vietnamese restaurant needed 2 cops on the payroll for security. God damn, New Orleans. Okay. Anyway. Antoinette and Officer Williams, they worked at the restaurant, right? Antoinette been working there for about 3 months or so, right around the same amount of time she been with Rogers. And I'm thinking, over pillow talk one night, they got to talking about the restaurant. And you see, Antoinette knew that the Vus, that's who owned the restaurant. Them Vus, they were old school Asians. They ain't fuck with them banks. So they kept large amounts of cash in-house. And so you know what happened next. A plan was hatched to rob the restaurant. Again, what could go wrong? Everything. Y'all, it all went to hell in a handbasket on March 4th, 1995. It's a Saturday night in New Orleans. The Kim Un restaurant is open late. They serving pho, and fried rice to the neighborhood. And you know we love us some fried rice, honey. And if you don't know, pho, P-H-O, it's actually pronounced pho, but who says pho? You say pho. But anyway, if you ain't had it, that shit is hitting. But you know what? That is not the point. Getting back to the story. The plan is they're going to go to the restaurant after it closed down and they're going to rob the place, right? And if anybody was feeling froggy, if necessary, they would be dealt with. If necessary. Ma'am, you's an officer of the goddamn law. You ain't even supposed to be having these kind of thoughts and conversations. Now, Antoinette's good planning ass has already lifted a gun for them to use from the evidence room at the goddamn New Orleans Police Department. She checked that shit out in her name with her signature and brought it home like 2 weeks before the robbery. Now, she thought she was smart because she reported the gun stolen a couple of days later. They say an officer came to the house to take the report and everything. So now she got a paper trail, right? She had the gun, now she don't have the gun. So if anything was to happen and the gun was used in a crime, she won't be on the hook for it because she's reported it stolen, right? The gun is a 9mm, and please believe it is safely in Antoinette's possession this entire time. So all they need to do now is go get some bullets. So her and Rogers make a trip to Walmart. Antoinette is in her full New Orleans Police Department uniform on the goddamn clock, and she in Walmart with Rogers, and they buy a box of bullets for a 9mm. Ma'am, the cameras of it all. Okay, follow me now. I'm gonna see if you gonna pick up what I'm putting down. They got one gun and they got bullets. Now what? Well, they go get something to eat at the motherfucking Kim Un restaurant. They eat, they leave. Antoinette comes back a couple hours later. Why? I mean, it seems strange. She come in, she shoot the shit with everybody for a minute, and then she leaves again. But it's close to closing time, right? So Vu, one of the children, when she went to lock the door, the key wasn't there. And you know, back in the day, you would leave the key in the lock, but the key was gone. And Vu thought that shit was strange, right? She ends up locking the door anyway, and then her and her siblings, they started cleaning up and shutting down everything so they can go home, right? Well, Officer Williams is there. It's his night to work, and the Vus apparently paid the officers in cash each day after their shift ended, right? So she about to count down the register, and she gonna pay Officer Williams. Says she saw Antoinette out the window again for the third time today, and she felt in her bones some shit wasn't right. So she go in the kitchen and she hide the money in the microwave. Ooh, honey, you know you got to have a bad feeling to goddamn go put your money in the microwave. Now, Antoinette, she got the missing key. This bitch let herself back into the restaurant. So it's 23-year-old Chow Vu and 18-year-old Kwok Vu. They brother and sister, right? And it's Officer Williams. They all in the dining room. Antoinette coming through the door. Antoinette run up on Chow and Kwok and pull out that piece be still. Instantly, their hands in the air, right? Well, Officer Williams, he a real police officer, and he see some shit that ain't right. He go to investigate. He run up on Antoinette, but Rogers supposedly is behind him, and Rogers supposedly let loose on Officer Williams, like empties the clip in that ass, right? It's a whole commotion. Chow and Kwok take this opportunity that is chaos. They run. They hide in the walk-in cooler in the kitchen, right? They close the door, they turn off the light, and then they just start praying, please, God, don't let this woman find us. Oh, my Lord. Now, Chow and Kwok, they not the only members of the Vu family that's working that night. They got two more siblings at work, too. 21-year-old Ha Vu and 17-year-old Kwong Vu. Well, they didn't hide. And Antoinette got they ass, and she is trying to find the money. She pistol whipping and cussing and making them, marching them all around the kitchen, talking about, where the money, where the money, give me the money, give me the money, give me the money, right? And eventually, they show her where the money is in the microwave. Now, mind you, Chow and Kwok, they still in the cooler, but the cooler got a window and glass doors, right? So they peeping out and they see all of this going on, right? Next thing you know, Antoinette got Ha and Kwong on they goddamn knees. Do you know this bitch shoot them execution style right there on the kitchen floor of their parents' restaurant? The restaurant they have given her a job at to work. Ooh, honey. Now, I have told you about the 4 members of the Vu family and Officer Williams being in the restaurant that night, right? Officer Williams, Hal, and Kwong are dead. But for whatever reason, Antoinette either forgot or just blanked out about the other two siblings running and hiding. They still alive. They are witnesses. Now look here, I don't advocate for or give direction to on how to commit a goddamn murder. But I'm just saying, if it's 5 people that seen your face and 3 dead, you got 2 more to do before you can call it a night. But not Antoinette and Rogers. They leave the restaurant, jump in Antoinette's car, and pull off. Now this is where the niggatry goes to a all new low. I'm talking about a whole nother level of audaciousness, y'all. Antoinette drops Rogers off at his brother's house somewhere around the corner. This nigga, instead of laying low, he go to the store and buy $15 worth of gas using the dead Officer Williams credit card. Young and just so fucking dumb. Oh my God. But look at here. Antoinette punk ass goes back to her motherfucking job at the New Orleans Police Department. She gets to the precinct, she gets out of her car and gets into a squad car. And then this bitch proceeds to go back to the motherfucking restaurant as a first responder. Yes, honey. She going back to finish the job though. But guess what? It's too late though, because other officers have responded. Believe me, as soon as Chow and Kwok saw that the coast was clear, they came out the cooler and they called 911. Antoinette knew this. She heard the call come over her police radio and she still went back. She go in the back door and Chow run out the front door straight into the arms of a police officer. Now Chow, honey, Chow is shook it, honey. She can't even speak English at this point, honey. She going a mile a minute crying and talking to Vietnamese. Baby, she see Antoinette and that really sends her over the edge. I mean, she is fucked up. It took them like 20 minutes to get her calmed down, right? That's not unexpected. Bitch, you just tried to kill me. Oh my God. And you here with these people in a whole ass uniform. It's a moment. It's a whole ass moment. Now, in the meantime, do y'all know that Antoinette got big balls of steel because this bitch is giving a statement to her fellow police officers. Sergeant Eddie Rance and Detective Marco Demmer, she told them that she had been there and she heard the shots and she tried to get all of the employees at the restaurant to secure the place, but Chow and Kwok wouldn't leave. So she tried to chase the man that did all the shooting. She said then she drove to the precinct to tell them that a crime had just been committed at the restaurant. Then she drove back to the restaurant to try to help some more. So at first, before she got real deep into the story, the detective was thinking, you know what? We hit a break here. Our witness is a cop. But by the time that story started coming out and that shit wasn't making no sense, baby, who in the fuck is you trying to tell this story to, ma'am? You got a cell phone, a police radio, and the restaurant phone. Why you didn't just pick up any one of them and call this shit in? Why you felt the need to go old school and drive the news to the precinct, right? You left the victims here to drive and tell the story? Ma'am, you left an officer, a fellow officer wounded, unattended, to come drive and tell us what had happened on the scene? Ma'am, but you know what? Antoinette think fast on her feet because the next thing you know, she said, I left because I knew who did it. It was Rogers LaCaze. Now, mind you, everybody know that Antoinette fucking around with Rogers LaCaze, and now you saying he the one that robbed your job and killed these people? And at that same time, Chow had done calmed down enough and was able to tell them what really happened. Chow was like, that bitch a lie and the truth ain't in it. She did it. She killed my brother and my sister and Officer Williams. Her and her boyfriend. Kwok had run off to go get help. He come back in on the scene. He backs up what his sister say. Antoinette was the motherfucking shooter. God damn. Boy, they arrested Antoinette punk ass right there on the spot and charged her with murder. And then they went and scooped up Rogers at his brother's house and charged his ass too. Both of their asses charged with 3 counts of first degree murder, honey. Woo! Yes, indeed. Well, when they got Antoinette down to the station, her ass confessed to it all. She said that she shot Ha and Kwong and that Rogers had shot Officer Williams. Girl, you folded like a card table. What had happened? I thought you was so hard. You's a mastermind. Bonnie would have never turned on Clyde. I guess the cure for being dictified is the death penalty hanging over your head. Let me tell you, them lovebirds started denying each other like Peter did Jesus. He made me do it. She made me do it. It don't even matter. Both of y'all did it. And now, all that's left to do, crank up the jury. So Rogers went to trial first on July 17th, 1995. Now, him having used Officer Williams' credit card while Officer Williams' body was still laying on the floor with the goddamn fried rice and shit on the floor, that shit was a slam dunk for the jury. They was like, nigga, please. And they convicted him on all counts on July 21st, 1995. And then they scheduled his water for disconnection. Now, Antoinette's trial, it was September 6th, 1995. And that shit was a blowout too. Man, the prosecution had the survivors Chow and Kwong Vu testifying. They pointed Antoinette's ass right out as the murderer. And then the prosecution brought up her past, the lying, the drug dealing boyfriend that had already been convicted of these murders, and the psychological test that she had flunked out on, right? They had the 911 call from Kwong. They had the 911 call from Brother Kwong. And when the 911 operator asked him who was in the restaurant, he said Antoinette and Rogers was in there killing everybody. Not looking good, Antoinette. Antoinette's defense was simple. It was basically, just because she was fucking around with Rogers LaCaze does not mean she was guilty. Her court-appointed attorney actually said, quote, there is nothing in the law that says you can be found guilty because of association. What? Sir, sit down, please, have a seat. And that's basically what he did, because even though the defense had subpoenaed 39 witnesses to testify on Antoinette's behalf, do y'all know they didn't call not one goddamn person to the stage? Not one. No, not one. Wasn't that a gospel song? Anyway, the defense was like, the defense rests, Your Honor. God damn. I mean, you mean to tell me it wasn't nobody that would get up there and talk good for you, Antoinette? What the fuck is your mama? Somebody, anybody. Ooh, child, that's very ungood. That's very ungood. Like, shit, you couldn't even pay nobody? Or did them 39 people say, look, if you put me on the stand, I'ma tell it all. And they was like, honey, the fuckery of it all you want. And the jury wasn't trying to hear none of that bullshit. Baby, when I tell you, they shady as fuck. They deliberated for 22 minutes on September 11th, 1995. Yes, I said 22 minutes. Shit, it take longer to get a pizza delivered than it did for them to convict that ass on 3 counts of first-degree murder. Do you know how guilty your ass gotta be for a capital murder trial jury to not even stay long enough to get lunch? I mean, shit, it took longer to get a drink at the bar than it did for the jury to call it a day. Woo, child, the shadiness of it all, honey. The next day at sentencing, Antoinette's mama and some more of her family members, they got up there and they was begging and they was pleading, honey. Please don't turn my baby water off. Please, Lord. It was James Brown all up in that bitch. But in another case of fuck around and find out, after they got through begging like Keith Sweat, that same goddamn jury took 35 minutes to say, bitch, you got to die. You can't be here no more. Honey, they gave that ass the death penalty, honey. Antoinette was 24 years old and made history as the first woman set to be executed in the state of Louisiana since 1942. Bitch, they finna blow the dust off that thing for your ass. Now, Antoinette's good killing ass been sitting on Louisiana's death row ever since. Inmate 003583331 at the Louisiana Department of Corrections, the Women's Facility in Baton Rouge. As of 2025, Antoinette is 54 years old, and like any death penalty case, she has filed appeal after appeal, but all them shits was denied. And like many states, Louisiana, they had stopped doing the long kiss goodnight for the condemned inmates, but they done crunked that shit back up. So she got a couple of more appeals to get through, but girl, you might be on deck. And you might think that's the end of the story, right? Well, it is kind of. I mean, because she ain't going nowhere. But remember, I was telling you about her alleged raping ass daddy that we would come back to him. Let me tell you something. It's time to get back to him. It would seem that right around the time she got on the police department, Antoinette's daddy, he fell off the face of the earth. Adam ain't nowhere to be seen. Antoinette filled out a missing persons report in September of 1994, and that was that. Ain't nobody seen, heard, or talked about that man since. That is until Rogers and Antoinette did that little killation situation. Well, since Antoinette was trying to put everything on him, Rogers told the police that he knew some other shit that they needed to look into. Proved that Antoinette was a stone cold killer. He said that Antoinette killed her daddy and buried him in the yard behind the house. What? Yes, honey. That's oddly specific. He didn't just say she killed him. That could be waved off his cap. But he knew what the body was. Well, 2 months after she was convicted, the New Orleans Police Department decided that they needed to look into whether or not Rogers was telling the truth. So they brought out a cadaver dog and went to Antoinette's house in November of 1995. Honey, the dog found bones, honey. And the skull bone had a motherfucking bullet hole in it, honey. They say the goddamn skeleton was about the right size and the right age for Antoinette's daddy. They didn't have no dental records, though. The shit got lost in the service, shit burnt up or whatever. So the only way they was going to be able to identify if this was Antoinette's daddy was to get a DNA sample from Antoinette. And Antoinette's ass was like, nope, you cannot have my spit. Kiss my ass, bitch. So they petitioned the judge to get a sample. And on January 3rd, 1997, Magistrate Judge Gerard Hansen, he said, open wide, bitch. But I'ma tell you, as of 2025, nothing has come of that shit. So we don't know if that was Antoinette's daddy. But I can conjecture all I want because it's my podcast. And if her daddy was raping her for all them years, that is for sure his punk ass that they found. And I ain't saying it was right, but like Chris Rock said, I understand. You reap what you sow. Period. And to tie everything up with a nice little bow, Rogers LaCaze was initially sentenced to die too, remember? His sentencing was overturned in 2019 because there was a cop that snuck on his jury and he didn't identify himself as a cop, which is a no-no. So on a technicality, they overturned his sentence and reduced it from a death penalty to life without parole. He was in Angola, but I looked high and I looked low, but I could not find any current information on Rogers LaCaze. He was in Angola. He may very well now reside in the upper room, because again, inmate not found. New One Nation and friends. This was some more audacious, senseless shit, right? Innocent people get caught the fuck up in somebody else's relationship bullshit. Instead of killing each other, that shit rebounds and it kills every damn thing in its path. Careers, families, dreams, lives. And a motherfucker that ain't got shit to do with this love bullshit caught up in the crossfire. The Voos did not deserve what happened to them. And I'm sorry, all the appeals in the world, you cannot explain and make me understand how one gun killed all these people and 2 people did it. So what you want me to believe, Antoinette, is that you was trading the gun back and forth? Because remember, Antoinette had the gun coming in the door to subdue the Voos. She was the first one through the door. She had the gun in her hand. Now, if Officer Williams is the first one to get shot, how did Rogers do it? He didn't have the gun. Antoinette did. Oh, so you want me to believe that you had the gun on the Voos. Officer Williams roll up on you and you said, wait a minute. Rogers, here, get the gun and shoot him and then give it back to me. You give Rogers the gun. He shoot Officer Williams in his head and neck areas and then Rogers give the gun back to you and then you use the gun to whoop up on the Voos and then shoot them execution style. Nah, sis. You're gonna have to try somewhere else with that one, baby. You did that. You did all of that. Cause in this situation, you Billy Badass or Tony Too Tough, whatever you want to call it. You've been the muscle in this relationship the entire time. You the one. You buying and treating and whining and dining and shit, handling situations for your boyfriend. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, Rogers was somebody's punk ass son out here trying to be grown, but I don't think he was a killer. He was a corner boy selling nick bags. He buying ounces and breaking that shit down. He's a man child with a cop for a girlfriend. Honey, mamas, don't let your babies grow up and get caught up in this bullshit with a crazy bitch, honey. Cause Rogers was a studio gangster. That's why we can't find his ass now. Cause he either deleted or in the witness protection program because they keep trying to get at his little soft ass. That's the only thing that I can come up with. Either that or the nigga snitched and got released on a life without parole. Which one you think is more plausible, New Orleans Nation? All right, y'all, that's all I got. Do what you do and slide over there to the socials and tell me what you think. Because I want to know, do you think having a fucked up childhood excuses future criminal behaviors? Like, my thought is that Antoinette found policing. It didn't find her. She wanted to be a police officer. She practiced that shit before she did the real thing. I mean, she was a play cop for 2 different jurisdictions, all to crash out the way she did. Don't that make it even more fucked up? I don't know, but you can tell me over at Melanin Mayhem Podcast on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and Melanin Mayhem PC on X. You can drop me a line at melaninmayhempodcast@gmail.com and check this out. And if you haven't joined the Facebook discussion group yet, quit playing with me and hit that request button. Honey, we cutting up every week. You already know how we do. Well, babies, until the next love story ends in tears and tragedy and love taking a bite out of somebody's ass, y'all stay safe. Y'all play this shit smart. And remember, love will make you do some crazy shit. Don't get caught up and fuck around and be on an episode of Love Kills. Now, Love Kills will be back in 2 Fridays, but you can always catch me every Wednesday at our regular time for your next hit of Melanin Mayhem. I don't know about you, but your favorite country girl is out this bitch. Wow.